On February the 6th, during a major air raid alert in Ukraine, Russia likely launched its Oreshnik missile in the direction of Kiev, Forbes journalist David Axe writes. No explosions were heard. Ukrainian military man Kirill Sazonov stated that the Oreshnik did not fly far. The missile malfunctioned and exploded on Russian soil. The author of the article notes that there is no independent confirmation yet that the second Oreshnik, which the Russian Federation probably launched in the direction of Ukraine, failed during the flight. There is no official confirmation of the information about the possible use of the Oreshnik during the air raid on February the 6th or about the possible fall of the missile on the territory of the Russian Federation. According to Kirill Sazonov, a Ukrainian war correspondent, the Oreshnik did not fly far. It reportedly malfunctioned and exploded on Russian soil. Everyone knew an attack might be coming. A week after the first Oreshnik strike, Putin threatened to fire additional Oreshniks and specifically warned he'd target decision-making centers in Kyiv, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski, top officials and commanders and their staffs work. But the threat was only as real as the Oreshnik is reliable. While it's not yet possible to independently confirm the second Oreshnik's mid-flight failure, a mishap wouldn't be surprising. Oreshnik is a Russian intermediate-range ballistic missile characterized by its reported speed exceeding Mach 10 or 12,300 kilometers an hour. The missile is equipped with 6 warheads, each reportedly containing sub-munitions, and has been described as highly difficult to intercept, though modern ballistic missile interceptors are designed to counter this type of system. The US has identified the Oreshnik as a variant of the RS-26 Rubez intermediate-range ballistic missile. The Oreshnik is just an RS-26 with less fuel and thus a shorter range. The very first RS-26 test in 2011 ended in explosive embarrassment as the prototype rocket veered off course and blew up a few miles from its launch site at the Plesetsk Cosmodrome in northwestern Russia. In reportedly failing, the second Oreshnik not only spared Kiev residents and Ukrainian leaders a long, frightening morning hunkering underground, it also backfired on the Kremlin. After all, the ICBM-like Oreshnik, with its nuclear associations, is scarier than it is militarily effective. Complex and inaccurate, the Oreshnik is an expensive way to deliver not that much destruction. Jeffrey Lewis, the director of the East Asia Non-Proliferation Program at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, told Reuters. In that sense, it's a terror weapon, a device meant to scare far more people than it injures and kills. That's why Putin followed up the first Oreshnik strike with a chest-pounding media event, kicking off what the Moscow Times described as a military propaganda campaign designed to exaggerate the capabilities of the Russian military-industrial complex and the might of a new weapon. Let us recall that Russia has already attacked Ukrainian territory with these weapons. This happened in November 2024. Then the Dnieper came under attack from the occupiers. Reuters wrote that the Oreshnik missile that the Russians fired at Ukraine on November the 21st did not contain explosives.
The Ukrainian military began a counteroffensive in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation and advanced 5 kilometers deep into the region in a day. According to the ISW, the Ukrainian military attacked southeastern Sudza, took control of the farm Kalmykov and the village of Fansivka, and also advanced in the direction of Cherkasskaya Konopelka and Yulinak. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation said that the Ukrainian troops attacked in several waves using armored vehicles. Some Russian military bloggers claim that the ASU has already entrenched in Cherkasskaya Konopelka and Yulinak. The settlements of Yulinak and Cherkasskaya Konopelka in the Kursk region are under the control of the Russian Army, Russian Ministry of Defense released information. It was stated that the Ukrainian armed forces had deployed 2 mechanized brigades for a counterattack in Russia's Kursk region. All attacks were repelled. The Ukrainian side has lost 6 tanks and 14 armored fighting vehicles. Note that the Ukrainian army entered Russia's Kursk region on the border in August of last year. The Ukrainian armed forces were reported to have captured more than 1,000 square kilometers of territory in the Kursk region. The Kremlin had to bring in some 12,000 North Korean troops to help it push the Ukrainian army out of Russian territory. But after losing some 4,000 dead and wounded, the Korean troops were withdrawn from the front. One of their 3 brigades has been eliminated, others lost the ability to keep fighting and were withdrawn, the Ukrainian General Staff said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insists the incursion has been a success, and has hinted that Ukraine's continued control of Russian territory might give Kiev leverage in any peace negotiations with Moscow. Mykola Bieliskov, a research fellow at the Ukrainian National Institute for Strategic Studies, said the rationale for the incursion had been more political than military. The United States had previously warned Kiev against taking aggressive actions toward Russia, which explains why the offensive was kept secret from Washington. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday met with Kursk Governor Alexander Kinstein to discuss the situation in the region and support for evacuees from border areas. According to Associated Press, Kiev sought to change its fortunes by launching an incursion into Russia's Kursk region in August, taking 984 square kilometers of Russian territory, in a bid to distract Moscow's forces in eastern Ukraine and strengthen its hand in negotiations. Russia, initially caught by surprise, intensified efforts to drive out the Ukrainian forces. Kinstein drew Putin's attention to the fact that the compensation for the lost PF property of 150,000 rubles was made months ago and is not enough, and urged starting restoring infrastructure in the border area despite ongoing military action. Putin agreed to consider additional compensations and a restoration program with the government. The incursion in Russia's Kursk region didn't significantly change the dynamic of the conflict, and military analysts say Ukraine has lost more than 40% of the territory it initially captured.
Самое главное, на что просил обратить внимание, это на контакты с людьми и выяснение тех озабоченностей, тех проблем, с которыми
112 тысяч человек получили у нас выплату в 150 тысяч рублей. Это не единственная мера поддержки, здесь я хочу вам сказать большое спасибо коллегам из правительства России за огромное внимание, за беспрецедентные меры помощи, поддержки и регионов, и, конечно, в первую очередь жителей, но те 150 тысяч, которые люди получили несколько месяцев тому назад, во многом уже ими использованы. Понимаем, что сегодня в силу понятных причин, в силу того, что идут и боевые действия, и наши воины героически освобождают Курскую землю, непосредственно сейчас приступить к восстановлению утраченной инфраструктуры невозможно, как невозможно сейчас посчитать объем затрат. Хотя бы потому, что мы физически еще не до конца всю нашу землю освободили. Но мне кажется также очень правильным, учитывая масштаб и учитывая серьезность этого вызова, рассмотреть возможность о принятии какого-то решения по восстановлению инфраструктуры в Курском приграничье.
Полностью согласен. Такое поручение правительству будет дано. И прошу вас вместе с коллегами из правительства Российской Федерации эту программу восстановления приграничья проработать. Самый чувствительный вопрос по дополнительной компенсации за утрату имущества. Вот этим назвали количество этих людей 112 тысяч человек, которые получили уже по 150 тысяч. Тоже согласен с вами в том, что, конечно, этих денег недостаточно. Поручу правительству прямо буквально сегодня, завтра, в ближайшие дни проработать все эти вопросы, и дополнительные решения будут приняты.
Владимир Ильич, вам большое спасибо.